Hello, my Redskins fans. Welcome back once again, my fellow feathered tribesmen, into this channel where we discuss everything Washington Redskins. So do me a favor, go to that refrigerator of yours, pull out yourself a nice tall glass of whatever your preference. Sit back, kick your feet up, and let me take the helm for just a little while. In this channel, where we may not always agree, but the admission here is free. I am your West Coast host, Burgundy Fly Guy, and this is Alright, this is going to be a special video that I'm going to do, and I wouldn't do this under any other circumstances, so this is going to be a rare video that you guys are going to get from me, acknowledging the situation for what it is, taking a look at current circumstances. I have been on the fence as to whether I wanted to do this video, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to go ahead and do it because, frankly, I think that there's a portion of this that deserves acknowledgement. I would like, at this moment, to congratulate all of the Philadelphia Eagle fans and its fan base, its organization, its players, and all the teams that support it, or all the entities that support it, to congratulate them for their victory yesterday. I didn't think they were going to be able to pull it off. That was my honest opinion. I didn't think that they... I felt that the stage was really, really big. And let's face it, this is a stage that they have been unable to perform in since forever, frankly. They've been to the game a couple of times. They haven't been able to pull it off. And I felt that given the circumstances... And I don't know, the only other Super Bowl that I could really kind of speak to is the game that they played against the Raiders. I felt that this game was probably more insurmountable than that one. I felt that the Eagles had the better team overall. All around, they had a better defense. They had better weapons on offense. But the reason why I had picked the New England Patriots to win this game, and let's get one thing straight, I really did not want to see the New England Patriots win. I'm tired of seeing the New England Patriots win, and frankly, I wouldn't have minded to see a team actually knock them off and pretty much kind of dictate that this may very well be the end of an era in New England. But honestly, facts being what they are, I felt that the New England Patriots had two major categories in their favor. One was the experience that they have at performing at this level. And the two most important areas of experience was probably going to be that head coach and that quarterback position. And unfortunately, I didn't feel that Philadelphia had it in those areas. And with a backup quarterback, and Anybody who plays in the NFC East knows Nick Foles fairly well. We've had to face Nick Foles for a couple of years, twice a season. We know what he's capable of. We know what he's not capable of. And I think that I speak for us all, and I don't necessarily want to come out and volunteer my opinions to everybody that is a fan of the team in the NFC East. But I think I speak for the majority when I say that the performance that Nick Foles performed a couple of weeks ago against the Minnesota Vikings was the best performance that he has ever had. And he's had a couple really, really good ones. And he's had some really abysmal ones. But coming from just your bargain basement, everyday, decent quarterback, that was Nick Foles. And his performance last couple of weeks ago was phenomenal. And I felt that was probably the best game that we were ever going to get out of him. And I didn't think he was going to be able to perform that twice. I felt the New England Patriots going to be able to do a really good job at taking away one, if not two, of his major assets, and then forcing him to throw the football on that stage, under that limelight, and watch him flounder like they've seen many, many different quarterbacks of that caliber do before. And Philadelphia did the impossible. They balled out in this game, man. They took chances, and it paid off. It paid off tremendously, in tremendous fashion. And they surprised me, I'll have to admit. And the one thing that I definitely want to convey is that I am in no way, shape, or form a Philadelphia Eagle fan. I can't stand the Eagles. And if you're a fan of a team in the NFC East, despite that's not of the Philadelphia Eagles, then you all know what I'm talking about. Your fan base is one of the worst ever. And you make no apologies for it. And congratulations for not making any apologies for it, because you get very, very little support from outside of your own fan base, and probably rightfully so. After this Super Bowl going into next season, I will go back to hating your organization and your fan base just as much as I did before. And to go into this game, the performance of some of the stuff that I saw in this game was actually somewhat uplifting, somewhat enlightening. And I think part of the reason for me why it was enlightening is because I really, really enjoy watching teams who've never won a Super Bowl come through at the end of one of the hardest games they've ever had to play and actually win. I enjoy watching teams that have never won a Super Bowl win a Super Bowl. You cannot describe to people, and Philly fans can understand what I'm talking about right now, you cannot describe to people what it is like to be a diehard fan. Think about it. You cannot describe what it's like to be a diehard fan. There are so many in this day and age, and I don't care who it is that you're a fan of, which team it is you're a fan of, and how much I hate you or how much I enjoy you. You cannot deny that in this day and age, it is extremely difficult to stay loyal to a particular thing. It is difficult to stay loyal to a team. And I think fantasy football has diluted the hardcore fan base to a certain extent. It's easy for me to get on a plane in this day and age and fly to New Jersey and pick up a Jets hat and paraphernalia and wear it to a Jets game and look like I fit in with everybody else and cheer the football team and come home and go back to enjoying the LA Rams. It's so easy to do that, and that's happened throughout time, but I think that happens more and more often than not. I think people by design want to belong to things. They want to be in the right, and it makes it difficult for people who are in a dedicated fan base, who bleed it, who breathe it, who drink it, who consume it. It is hard for us because there's yes and no. There's black and white. There is you are in or you are out. And more often than not, your team sucks. And more often than not, your team is getting crapped on. And more often than not, you see them making moves that are not healthy for the longevity of your football franchise. And more often than not, you're not going to make the playoffs. More often than not, you're not going to make the Super Bowl. More often than not, you're not going to win those big games against those division rivals. And you end up spending a majority of your time just in perpetual hell. It stresses you out. It ruins your day. It pisses off the people around you. This is what it means to be a diehard fan. It's not something that you try to live. It's something that is. You either feel it or you don't. And Philadelphia Eagle fans are some of the most loyal fans of an organization that has not rewarded them for years, has not rewarded them until now. And with as hard as it is for us to try to tell people what it's like to be a diehard fan, it's even harder for you to try to describe to somebody what it is like for a diehard fan to win a Super Bowl. A couple of years ago, and I've told this story I think maybe once or twice before, but I'll go in more in depth now. A couple of years ago, the Seattle Seahawks won a Super Bowl, and I'm not a fan of that fan base either. I happen to dislike them a little less, but I don't play them twice a year. They had never won a Super Bowl before. When they did end up winning, I'd sent out 2 personal phone calls, dialed 2 phone numbers, 2 of the most loyal, die-hard, unapologetic Seahawk fans that I've ever met in my life. And I live in an area in the Pacific Northwest where the Seahawks are pretty much gospel when they're winning. When they're winning. There are a lot of diehard fans up here, but they're few and far between. And I called 2 of the biggest. I called a friend of mine and I called a relative. And I had a personal conversation with them that I have not had with anybody else because I felt that it would have been more, it would have resonated more with them. You just can't have this conversation with anybody. And for anybody who's a Philadelphia Eagle fan who's watching this video, I'd like to have this conversation with you. The same conversation that I had with just only 2 people before. And I'm putting it out here on the internet for everybody to see. And for those of you that are fair weather Eagle fans, for those of you that just decided to start wearing the paraphernalia the last couple of years, for those of you that decided you had some fantasy players on the football team and you like the logo and you're just going to put on the paraphernalia and really enjoy the football team, this message is not for you. And don't expect me to explain why it's not for you. And if you don't know, you're never going to know. But this message is for those individuals who have been a die-hard fan of the Philadelphia Eagle franchise pretty much their whole lives, regardless of where you reside in the United States. The one thing that I will say is remember this moment. This moment right now, right here. This is the reason why it was so difficult to explain to you before what it was like. How in the world do you explain in layman's terms what it is that you're feeling right now? It's impossible. It's impossible to convey. I have sat here and watched some Philadelphia Eagle YouTubers. Some of them were at the game, some of them were at parties, to watch their emotions when they watch their team in the final seconds, to watch New England throw a Hail Mary, and just that look of perpetual breath holding, that tension, and then finally when it turns out incomplete and the game is over and they've won a Super Bowl, the state of euphoria that they feel. How do you describe that? How do you explain that to somebody who hasn't gone through the ebbs and the flows, the ups and the downs with this franchise? How do you describe it? You can't. It's impossible. All you know is that you feel it. And if you've won a Super Bowl before with a team that you were a diehard fan of, you know what this feels like. I last felt this 20, 30 years ago. 30 years ago when I was in high school was the last time I remember this feeling with my football franchise winning a Super Bowl. But I still remember what it feels like. And I'll tell you, you'll remember it for the rest of your lives. Quite literally. You will remember this feeling for the rest of your lives. And no matter what happens from here on out, no matter all of the horrible trades, all of the horrible signings, all of the crap that's going to go off the field, all of the stuff that's going to be thrown your guys' way, at the very least, you can say you've hosted that Lombardi at least once. At least you can say I was there. At least you can say I remember that day. And nobody can take this day away from you. There are plenty of people out there that are going to sit there and say, hey, well, we've won one in the last 10 years, so yours doesn't count. Those moments come, man. Don't worry. You're not going to stay at the top for long. It's this moment right here and now, this particular time, 2018, where you're going to look back and say, I remember when we won that Super Bowl. I remember how it felt. I remember why it is that these teams do, why it is that these players do what it is that they do every single day, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, and put their bodies through what it is that they put their bodies through is for this feeling right here, to be the best, to be number one, to be on top of the heap for at least a year. And that's my message to you guys. remember this moment. I'm actually happy to a certain extent to see that a team in the NFC East had won this title. I am a fan of the NFC East because I happen to think that this division's one of the toughest divisions in football to play. It's a division that Tom Brady can tell you all about what it's like to play a team out of the East. He's lost to all of us, in the big game that he's gone up against. And the Eagles are the last team to bring his organization to its knees. Quite literally, watching Tom throw that pass and sit on his ass in bewilderment, that was classic. That was very, very good. And it's also nice, and correct me if I'm wrong, but since the NFL merger, the NFC East is the first team in the NFL to have all 4 teams of the Super Bowl. I think I'm correct on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in every single division in football, there's at least one team that hasn't won one. And Philadelphia picked up that last marker for us. This is why I am a fan of the NFC East. I hate all the other 3 teams in my division. I despise them. Horrifically despise them. Can't stand them. Can't stand their fan bases. Can't stand their quarterbacks. Can't stand their coaches. Can't stand their owners, their cheerleaders. Nothing about them. But at the end of the day, I can acknowledge that my team suffers in this division because all of the other teams are good. That competition is thick. The people that play in this division are extremely good. They're tough. You know when you've played us. And this year, when you've played anybody from this division because all of us were fairly good. And the Philadelphia Eagles, it ends up that they win a championship, their first championship of their franchise history. And there's a lot of fans out there that are fair weather fans by my definition. There are many, many fans out there that are diehard fans by my definition. Who knows? Maybe this will make a diehard out of some of the other fair weather individuals that are rooting for this team because they remember this experience and they're loyal to it. Who knows? But that's going to do it for me, guys. I'm going to be coming back with another video here. My football franchise is none the worse for wear when it comes to off-season antics, so you can look for more videos from Burgundy Fly Guy. Subscribe down below if you haven't subscribed to me. This is going to be probably the only video that I do that is not Redskins related. This is a Redskins dedicated channel, as you can tell by the intro of my videos. I ask that you pick up a nice tall glass of whatever your preference, because in this channel we discuss everything Washington Redskins. But as a Redskins fan, I want to extend my congratulatory hand of truce to say congratulations to all the Philadelphia Eagle fans. I'm a subscriber to some of your channels, and I'm not going to name exactly who those individuals are. I'm not going to call them out, and you probably don't even necessarily know who you are. But my congratulations pretty much goes out to everyone that's in your franchise. So, congratulations, guys. Look forward to meeting you again in this next 2018 season, but this time we'll be going up against the Super Bowl champions. So that's going to do it for me. For all of us fans, the Twin Feather, we ride together. Redskins for life. Peace out. Until next time.